Isaac in his sophomore year, Chapter 7. Another week passed, and I found myself hanging out at the Play and Play, or worse, the library. I did not want to be at the hangout, though I was miserable. Good things were happening. It isn't during laughter and good times that we grow the most. It is usually during pain, storms, and darkness, where we are given the opportunity to grow, when life is hammering at us, and darkness and unpleasant thoughts bang at the door. Over this time, I had been in the Bible more than ever. My prayer life strengthened. I actually did my fourth and fifth steps, and I was doing homework during my lunch break, pushing for even higher grades. Besides all of this, I was surfing again. I would think, but I would not get thrown around by chaotic emotions. I would think things out while in the water and on the waves. There was a creative spark in me, and a crispness toward thought. Soft edges and problem solving were heightened. This situation was really bothering me. I had to get away from the two. Gretel liked me, not Bob, and I knew it. She would outright flirt with me in front of him, and I knew that had to hurt him. I loved them both. He was my best friend. I could not stand the jealousy that I felt. It was evil, but I was powerless to stop it. The girl worked her eyes and touch on me, and she had gotten through. Sitting up on my board, I lazily rolled with the calm waters. Being somewhere else in my mind, I swiped at my long hair to brush it out of my face. It was really long, easily well past the middle of my back. Been having long hair for most of my life by this point. Used the best shampoo and conditioner, and I trimmed the tips a few times a year. It caused it to really grow. Sometimes it would annoy me, though. Seeing a set begin to roll in, I haphazardly paddled. The waves were only 2 to 3 foot on this day, and I had a slow pace to it all. I would surf for a few hours, and when I felt tired, I made my way back towards shore. There was no particular hurry. Homework was all caught up, and I had no plans for the day. There was no particular hurry. Homework was all caught up, my room was clean, laundry was done. Bookwork with the AA program was caught up on. I felt good. I had no plans for the day. I went through the checklist in my head, and I was doing good. Pulling my wetsuit down to my waist, I sat down and made myself comfortable on my towel in the sand and stared out over the water. The sounds of the ocean were comforting to me. They were sounds associated with my earliest of memories. I was somehow a part of it. Yeah, I know, surfer hippie talk. I just could not be sad at the beach. It was the ultimate antidepressant for me. It was my happy place when I was a small child, and as I grew, it still was my happy place. It is like the mountains for people who live in places like Colorado. They go for hikes and stuff, and the meadows and trees and wildflowers is soothing to them. The ocean is like that for me. I was at my wits' end. I missed them. Hearing the sound of crunching sand, I turned and saw Gretel and Bob approach. What the? I mumbled and smiled at the sight of them. Hey, butthead. We thought we'd find you here, Bob grinned. Looking over at Gretel, she was silent, looking at me through a pair of hurt eyes. Hey, you guys, I smiled broadly. What brings you two out to the beach? We thought that you could use a company, Bob smirked, and I stuck out my hand to shake his hand. Stand up to your feet, son. I've been missing a brother. Don't be lazy. I stood up and gave him a sideways bro hug. Looking over at Gretel, I noticed that she was in a bikini, and the sight of it overwhelmed me. It was the first time I had seen her in anything like that. Yeah, you could say that I was attracted to her. We have missed you. Do I get a hug? She asked sweetly. Hurt was etched all over her face, and she wanted to make sure that I saw it. See what you have done to me? Don't you feel bad? She was close to tears as she looked at me. It seemed to ask, don't you even care? Of course you can have a hug. We've been wondering what's happened to you, Bob asked. He and Gretel exchanged a strange look between one another. It hinted of an earlier conversation that I had not been a part of. Probably secret boyfriend and girlfriend talk. I was still so new to it. I was young, though I was feeling so grown up. I'd felt grown up when I hit the fourth grade, and then again when I hit junior high. Now, I was beyond my freshman year. Honestly, I was working on something for the program, and I've been surfing. The ocean is always the same, man. It never changes. It looks the same, feels the same, and it always does the same things. I like it. I've liked it ever since I could remember, and I had been neglecting it. Got a soft spot for surfers. Bob didn't seem to hear my ramblings, but Gretel was listening. She always seemed to listen intently, to learn from my words, things about me. It was like she wanted to know me and cared to. It was the first female that I'd ever come across that was that way. It seemed like most seemed to kind of focus on themselves. It was that whole chasing game thing. I can't explain it. Focus on themselves, and then they run off and they want you to chase, and you're expected to pounce and to take them. Gretel wasn't like that. It was like she actually saw me, wanted to know me. It wasn't about sex, it was about love. You see, there are two categories of people in this world. There are wolves and there are sheep. That whole chase and pounce thing, it's wolf love. When two people are sheep, well, it's a whole other different thinking process. It's a different nature. It was attractive to me. She was good at all of these little things that I had never experienced, and she was warm. You know, like her heart or something. This probably doesn't make any sense, but these were my thoughts. They made sense to me. Why the soft spot for surfers, Isaac? Gretel asked me. Always drawing things out of me. You listen and you hear. Your ears, my dear, they're open. Most would have let that comment pass and not had a thought to ask about it. You care enough to. That is an amazing quality about you, Gretel, I said. I kind of cringed. I probably said too much. It's probably inappropriate. After all, that is my bro's girlfriend. Somewhere along the way, I would get used to her ways, and in the future just assume that other girls would be like her. You know, really care. A lot of them come across as, don't you even care? But do not come to the realization to give that care themselves. Not just say it, but show it. Most just throw sex at you and do none of these little things that say, I care about you as a human being. She wanted to know me. What do you like? Tell me about when you were a kid. I love you, and I want to know about you and how you think. She saw me as a human being, not a human doing. I was maybe 6 years old and been playing in the ocean. I got swept out by a wave and could no longer reach the bottom. I was thrashing around in the water and I started to go under. Funny thing, being 6 years old and knowing that you're about to die, there was a calm that washed over me, like an acceptance about it all. It was a surfer that saved me. I was under the water sinking fast and looking up at the distancing sky. I was out of strength to continue to fight and thrash around. The undertow, the undercurrent, had taken me out well beyond where I could no longer reach, and I was running out of breath quick. A hand came into the water and grabbed me by the arm. He picked me up and set me on his board. He then paddled me back to shore. I don't know, man. I never really dissected all of this too deeply, but I kind of am now, trying to make sense of it all. It's like from that moment on, I looked up to surfers. You know, one saved my life, and that made me think that they were pretty cool. I've thought them pretty alright ever since. Heroic, hippie-like, poets and philosophers and such. Cool story, bro, but let's not get all serious, Bob chuckled, gave me a playful shove. I felt foolish at my serious tone. I laughed at the light-hearted shove. Looking over at Gretel, she stared at me through a pair of longing eyes, and I returned the look with a glance. It immediately brought conflict and the same conviction. Don't look at her like that, Isaac. That's your best friend's girl. And you want to be a loser and walk home from school? Bob gave me a hard time. Tomorrow, I don't know, probably just surf again. Well, instead of surfing, how about we come over and go swimming at your pool? He was referring to the pool in our complex, in the townhouse neighborhood that we lived in. Yeah, Isaac, please. We haven't hung out with you in 2 weeks. You don't even come across the street anymore. We miss you." Gretel whined sweetly and pleaded with her eyes. "Swimming? Yeah, man, I like the idea. That's cool," I smiled. "Right on, sweet. So in the meantime, what do you say about us going into the water and catching some waves?" Bob asked. They were ready for the beach. They had drug a ton of gear with them. I was more of a minimalist when I came to surf. Half the time I didn't even bring a towel. "It's about time that you brought your board out. Let's do this," I replied. "Did you want to come into the water with us?" I asked Gretel. "No, you guys go ahead and surf. Bob has really missed you. We will have our time tomorrow," she said nervously. There was such a longing and desire in her eyes. I played impervious to it like I always had, but it had gotten too hard to keep it up. That was why I had to initially get away. Maybe the swimming together thing wasn't such a good idea after all. As I thought this, I caught myself staring at her in her bikini. The girl was beautiful. No, it wasn't lust. It was desire. It was love.